Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 128 of the Noclip podcast. Danny here, back in the studio, no longer flying around the world like a jet-setting leprechaun. I'm no longer in Ireland. I'm no longer in Maryland. I'm back in Nevada land, I guess. If this would have been so much easier if I still live in Oakland. Frank Howley, how are your arms doing? Random question.
I fractured my elbow.
What? What?
So the last 2-3 weeks on the podcast, I kept bragging about how much fun I had with my new bicycle and running around town listening to Paramore, and it was worth it. I had a lot of fun riding my bike. I was starting to do like 2 trips a day, like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. I was like, oh my god,
wow.
This is the most fun I've ever had. I was starting to get really confident and really fast and like strong at it. And I decided, like, all right, I've mastered my local city here. Let me go to a new city. So I took my bike, put it in
level 2.
Yeah,
it's like
right?
the warehouse is done.
Yeah,
we're gonna hit up the hangar or fucking school or whatever.
So I met up with a friend to see Fast and Furious 10, Fast X. We had a great time. It was awesome. And immediately after, I went to a nearby park in Irvine, and I think 5 minutes into my ride, I crashed into a curb and fell off my bike and like. It feels like just one of those things where I just landed funny. I don't think I was going that fast when I landed. I thought I watch a lot of wrestling. I know how they take bumps. And I slammed into the sidewalk with my left side of my body, fell, but I'm like, okay, yeah. I got back up, started biking, and then immediately was like, oh shit, this hurt. This hurts like more than it should. I got off and but essentially 2 hours later, my left arm just kind of locked up and started to really swell. So next day got x-rays, and yeah, it's fractured rotator head or rotary cuff, but it's the like inner part of your elbow, the joint that connects the forearm to the medical.
Okay.
Did you break your funny bone? That sounds like
So
thankfully, your funny bone.
Thankfully the funny bone's the outer part that would have. So it's the inner of the funny. It's the I don't know what the opposite, the sad bone. I don't know the
humorless
the inner
bone.
part,
miserable bone.
because that would have been brutal. So the weekend was really miserable. Like, it was hard to sleep because it kept gnawing at me, and but every day since, it's gotten a little bit better. I finally got to see the bone doctor, and like they basically said, the orthopedic whatever. I've never had to use
the bone doctor.
I've never had to use my insurance card, so I was so afraid of like, is this gonna work? I feel it feels like I don't know.
No, this is no good. 0% copay. Give us $4,000.
I was so scared. Thankfully, like ultimate copay so far has only been $20, and I'm like, oh,
okay, cool.
So now that makes me like not afraid to ride my bicycle. So if I fuck up again, I'll be okay. So thankfully, I don't need a cast. I don't need surgery. I just gotta keep it into a sling. Do physical therapy. It sucks because I just bought Guitar Hero featuring Haley Williams, and I didn't get a chance to play it.
You did.
Paramore's what did this to you,
spoilers.
though.
Damn.
Maybe you need to be careful of Paramore.
No,
Your
see, now what I'm
Paramore
hoping,
hubris.
Now what I'm hoping for is I didn't buy tickets for Paramore. They're playing LA. They're playing Palm Springs and San Diego. I looked at 3 different shows.
Nice.
Tickets are way too expensive, but who knows? Maybe Paramore's manager, someone's listening. If you guys can get pit tickets to see Paramore, that would, that's my like sympathy ticket I can cash in for my elbow. So
nice. Do you have anyone to go with to the Paramore concert, or would this be a purely a single affair?
I think you know what? I do have a friend in LA who's super into Paramore, and like part of me is like, what I've talked with friends is like, people say like the day of concerts, if you look at the resale tickets, they like plummet down.
Shoot down. People
so
can't
I'm
make
like,
it. Yeah.
Maybe as of now, it's like $200 to see him in LA. That's not worth it. $100? Yeah, maybe. But
thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Nice. We should do a patron stretch goal or something. Make it happen.
Send Frank to Paramore.
Thank you for making it today. We'll talk about it a little bit more once we get through some of this housekeeping. We'll also talk to Jeremy eventually as well, who's also here.
I'll be
Hi,
around.
Jeremy.
Hi, how's it going?
Right. Okay, he's just hanging back. This is episode 128. As I said, if you'd like to support this podcast, you know the drill. Patreon.com/Noclip. Help us out. Help Frank get a nicer sling. I don't know how any of this works. Shout out to all our Battle Pass holders: James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, welcome, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Aaron L. White, Tim Robinson. People keep asking us to interview Tim Robinson. This is not, as far as I know, he is not the same Tim Robinson from what's that show called again? I think you should leave.
Yeah.
Is not him. It's a different Tim Robinson, I believe, which doesn't seem all that outlandish. Tim Robinson seems like a relatively common name. No offense, Tim Robinsons around the world. Forrest Pruitt, that's probably a less common name. Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, the least common name in the world. Cameron Ladd. Although George Sakotis, Jacob Godsurf, and Tohir Tiliev may have something to say about that. We actually do just have a bunch of very interesting names here on the Battle Pass world. Thank you all so much. We're working our asses off over here. The Choo Choo Charles documentary is in early access, so you can go check that out. It'll be out next week. It's a good time. I'm working on Dwarf Fortress and Vampire Survivors at the moment. Jeremy's working on Immortality, which somebody sent me a tweet during the week saying, out of context, Jeremy is working on Immortality is quite the sentence.
I mean, I'm also working on becoming immortal. It's just not going as well.
If you were to imagine trying to become immortal, in my head, there is sort of like two paths to that. There's the sort of dark artistry path, and then perhaps there is a more sort of angelic, heavenly manner of doing it. What do you think? Like, where would you go if you needed to be immortal tomorrow? You needed to go on that path. What direction would you start walking in?
Yeah, so I feel like the D&D morality split here is you either go to the desert with a bunch of LSD and you meditate and eat rice and like sun gaze and do all that and hope that somehow that works out, or you go the other path and you start like capturing people and trying to suck their life essence through scientific means. So yeah, I'd probably take a lot of LSD and eat a lot of rice while also torturing people and kind of like split the difference. You know what I mean? Because I feel like one of them is going to work out.
Yeah, an amalgamation of the two. So you're saying like the sort of like the tech bro version of immortality.
Yes, there's
which is like siphoning
the Sam Altman
adrenochrome
OpenAI version of it, where you have like a blood boy.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there's also, you can also go down the AI route or the computer version route.
Yeah, should I ask ChatGPT how to become immortal?
Do actually, ask it really quickly there.
Yeah.
But ask it to reply in a way that only Werner Herzog would.
They're at capacity right now, meaning
they're at capacity.
I've never seen it say that before. I feel like it heard us and they knew that it would give us the right answer.
Is ChatGPT con on at the moment or something? How can AI be? That's not okay. What happens if like the entire world economy is like based on AI and then it's like, oh, the tubes are full. We can't think of any more stupid lyrics to Beatles songs that were never written.
It's kids cramming for finals. I've heard that like students in high school are using Chat GPTs to spit out essays and then they rewrite them. Like, so
I asked it to. I fucked around with it for the first time about 3 weeks ago when I was in Ireland because I was just bored and. I asked it to. I was asking it a bunch of stuff, and then at a certain point, I was like, I should ask it something that only I'll know the answer to, or something. And then I was like, oh, I'll ask it about me because there's probably enough like random shit on the internet about me, and I have a Wikipedia page and stuff. And I asked it about me, and it was so unbelievably wrong. It was very bizarre. Like it got my like place of birth wrong, which is fine. It didn't have to mention my place of birth. It might not know, but it picked a totally different part of Ireland. It's nowhere near where I grew up, and but it says it with such confidence that I was like, oh, if I was asking questions of things I did not know about, I would really assume. It doesn't couch it in like, oh, well, I think they were from such and such. It doesn't have like shame like a human. It just like tells you with like such unbelievable bravado things that were wrong. I was talking about how I worked at Giant Bomb for 15 years. I was like, what?
That's awesome. Spiritually, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. In my heart. Yeah, so I'm not so sure about it.
Yeah, it definitely spits out confidently wrong answers a lot, which is why I feel like people need to temper their expectations. I honestly feel like everyone should just assume that all information is potentially wrong all of the time, but I feel like hanging the little sign of like an AI generated this on it is an important disclaimer, because I've seen Reddit responses where someone's like, oh, this is actually, this is what you need to do, and so it'll be like, that's not right at all. And I'll be like, oh, that's what ChatGPT says.
Right, yeah.
You're taking the confidently wrong attitude of ChatGPT and just amplifying it.
It's like the absolute inverse of what happened like in the early days of the internet when Wikipedia started getting together, where like you were like in this position where we were sort of codifying a lot of like and sharing a lot of learned accumulated knowledge throughout the world. And AI, in the way that it also sort of is a spiraling, self-destroying piece of technology, and that like the more AI answers and the more AI images that are out there, the less pure the actual AI generated new things are. In that same way, we're sort of trashing the knowledge base of the internet, which is like loads of noise.
Yeah, same. Well, it's the same with AI image generation, which is becoming a problem. Is that it's the signal to noise ratio is going to be so much noisier as it generates all of these like, you know, murky. I mean, I don't know. There's been a few AI images that have gone viral and people have been tricked by them. I've never come across one that I thought was real. I feel like it has such a distinct visual flavor to it that looks so AI generated, which is also why I think it has utility as like a concept. It's like the two moral and useful applications of AI image generation are like concepting, like doing concept art, generating concepts just to like mash things together and see how they look, but not using that as finished art for a million reasons, because it doesn't look good enough, because it's weird and immoral sometimes, you know, things like that. And the other one is memes, just generating memes.
Yeah.
But as people try to generate things and they're like, I'm actually an artist and this is my art, and it's just like they went to Midjourney and typed in like, what if Michael Jordan shoes had Renaissance art on them, and then they're like, now I'm an artist.
Yeah, it's kind of like in like the commerce of a lot of this stuff. And I mean, you were talking about this stuff fucking like 14 months ago on this podcast, right? Like you were talking to us all about this and we were like, what are you on about? It seems nowadays like the commerce of it seems to be in like trying to obviously replace real people's jobs, right?
Yeah,
which
was
sucks,
our fear when we talked about it 14 months ago as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But the actual interesting applications of these things, it's like are different and way more interesting than that. Like I want the art that's being made when the AI is like its brain pipes are being choked by bad art. Like that sounds cool and weird. And I like when it looks slightly fucked up and wrong. Not when it's like, I don't want it to look like what a human makes, because that sucks. And also like that's the most CEO fucking solution to art I have ever heard in my life, and it's so uninteresting. It's like I don't know, you know, if like a new wave directors were being asked to do fucking, you know, TV commercials, or you were asking like, you know, some of the artists who moved away from the sort of like realistic era to like go back to do that. It's like, no, like let it be weird and free. I love my two favorite AI based video things is there's the Disturbed video that they put out that was all done in DALL-E, which is, I forget the name of the song, but it's like, I think it's called Bad Man actually. The video is fucking cool. It's like it's all a bunch of still images done in DALL-E, I think, and it's all like sort of like very political looking sort of dark imagery, but it's really well put together, and it's done at such a fast frame rate that it almost feels like motion, even though it's just variants. Like it's the same variant of like, you know, military looking guys, but it like, you know, 20 of them pop up in the space of 10 seconds, so it's like pulsating between them all. It's very well done. That, and have you seen some of these like YouTube videos of, there's the Wes Anderson ones, have you seen those, where it's like what happens if Wes Anderson made like, you know, Avatar or whatever, and they do all that sort of stuff. My favorite ones though are the it's like some fashion brand, I forget what it's called. It's like some dark European like super expensive fashion brand, and they have like the characters from Game of Thrones and like all of these things pretending they're in a commercial for it's Balenciaga, I think it is. And if you type in like Balenciaga Game of Thrones or whatever, you'll come up against these. They're just very inhuman and weird like AI generated videos where everyone is just like kind of like minimalist models just standing there looking weird, which is just about as much as these AI video things can kind of handle. But it's like Jon Snow and like a fucked up like leather fucking like weird cod piece, you know what I mean? Just like looking completely weird, and then saying like weird things like, I am Jon Snow, I am Balenciaga, or whatever. Like it's all voice generated. They're fucking great. They're just so weird and bizarre. And there's a Harry Potter one, and it's just a good time.
Yeah,
but like you said, memes.
Yeah, the memeier the better. I feel like that's the problem, is when people. It's arguably the same crowd as the NFT stuff. It's people who want like a shortcut to authentic creativity, because it's like it's very monetizable, and it's also a good way to like gin up cultural cachet as well, as to be like, I'm like an artist or I have like creative output. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess the problem with doing anything beyond memes is that if you have like, art is supposed to deliver you towards some sort of experience. And so if an AI generates a piece of quote unquote art and it gives you any sort of experience, I feel like it's just sort of it's by accident. It's like when someone sees a really good movie and they're like, oh, what if I did like a shot for shot remake and changed the plot, but they didn't really understand the story dynamics or like why the characters were appealing or what their emotional journey was. And so you get, these kind of just like weird alien approximations of emotion that feel so lifeless. Yeah, I don't know. It makes me very sad that I know we talked about it a while ago and I was like pretty optimistic, but also cautiously optimistic because every technology is used to exploit people's labor, obviously, inevitably. But yeah, it's been a bummer to see how much it's just leaned into like, what if all of the cool labor was replaced and then we were left to like, shovel the coal to keep the like cool labor AI going.
It's so weird, isn't it? It's like we're looking at like an inverse memory hole where like creativity is just going to go down this weird spiral black hole into nothingness, and we don't know what's on the other side, but we know it's worse. So it's like, yeah, I don't know.
I feel pretty optimistic about it. This is my optimism pill take on this. I think that ChatGPT 3 has been around for several years now. There's a billion people claiming, oh, this is new technology. It's going to spit out a movie script. It's going to replace all the writers. The WGA strike has been talking about this as well. Like execs trying to replace writers with AI. I don't think
it's become the main sticking point because apparently they put it in one of their whatever things that they were having in their new contract, and there was such a crazy reaction to it from the studios that they were like, oh, you are trying to replace us.
Yeah.
So we're really going to take it seriously now.
Someone can clip this. I'll eat a shoe on this podcast when a good movie is written by ChatGPT.
Okay.
And I think that gives me at least 10 years before I have to eat a shoe.
And hey, Werner Herzog had to do it and he made a movie about it.
And he's awesome and I love him. So You know what? It's good company. But yeah, I will be very shocked if and when AI starts generating pieces of art that are like legitimately good art, because like I said, it's like a piece of art has intention behind it. Like storycraft is so much more than just understanding the syntax of stories, and it's like, oh, this guy does this and then there's conflict and then it resolves. It's so much more about just like feeling your way into those stories. And I mean, that's why storycraft is a hard thing to learn, is because it's like there's no all the books on screenwriting you could ever read are kind of bad because it's like there's no formula for it. It's just about like feeling through emotions, and there's like you need to have like an emotional radar in your brain to do it.
And it seems especially stupid when you come to television and movies, which are like music, inherently like generational mediums which require change. Like movies and TV shows from 10 years ago look and feel old and are old, and if you keep going back every 10 years or so, they continue to be like, you see the changes, and like the next generation of television is always based on upending and bucking the trends of the previous generation. So the idea that you would have an AI which seems like, and this technology is interesting and has uses and all that sort of stuff, I'm sure, but like to have it, like commerce is trying to tell it to do things that it's not capable of doing, and having it try and tackle almost specifically television and movies seems incredibly stupid. Like the whole Marvel stuff, the Marvel stuff now feels rote, and I think the Marvel stuff is coming to its end as well because people are now bored of it. But the whole idea of doing this big, sort of large, or we're going to do like 20, 30 movies based on these like actors and stuff was really interesting, in the same way that like Friends was revolutionary and Breaking Bad was revolutionary and Sopranos and Game of Thrones. They were all doing something that was like bucking the trend. And if AI is based on looking at, if you wanted, like, I'm sure you could train an AI to like watch every episode of Friends and come up with a pretty good Friends script, but like you're not going to get it to write a new TV show, because that's the inverse of what it actually does, which is create sort of, copy pasta of existing art.
Yeah, you can like Mad Lib together. Like I think that's the thing that a lot of people who are sort of like techno-utopianists misunderstand about this technology, is I think that It's like, in fact, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. Getting into AI image generation like a year ago is one of the biggest things that made me want to learn how to draw, because
funny.
I found I've been like getting really serious about becoming a visual artist and like doing a bunch of 3D and stuff and posting some low poly stuff on Twitter and like learning to 3D model and all these things. But I feel like my dissatisfaction with the capacity of AI image generation to generate meaningful images. I felt like it was so close, but it's always sort of 80% of the way there, where it's like I feel like I was tricked because of my lack of training in the visual arts. And I feel like that's kind of the way it always goes with these technologies, is the people who are like, oh, there's a new technology and it's going to edit videos for you. All you have to do is like this and it'll edit the video for you. When I as a video editor look at that, I immediately say, oh, here's all the reasons that it will never work, and it's like you're just creating extra homework for yourself in an attempt to make something easier. You should just learn the skill and do it yourself, and it would be better. I feel like now having learned how to draw a little bit better and like learning kind of the basics of art and like how to render lighting and stuff, my eye has gotten so much better for the fact that AI image generation is like kind of dog shit. Like it just kind of makes bad art. So yeah, I feel like the popularity of these technologies is typically driven by people who don't have enough training to recognize that the output of these image generation, text generation, all these things are insufficiently like they don't have as high a quality of creative output as these people think they do. They overestimate them because they're not experts in those fields.
Yeah, they can't see all the things that aren't working,
yeah.
like the color balance or the framing or whatever it is.
Yeah, or just the resolution of details is the biggest thing for AI image generation. Like people talk about fingers a lot, but it's just this kind of like murkiness where it's like the thing that's appealing about art is you look at it and the little like pocket on someone's jacket has the stitching, and those details are like, that's what makes my brain light up, is like everything feels intentional. And when it's kind of just like an approximation, it feels like an approximation. It feels like it's trying to approximate the experience that you would have looking at real art.
Yeah, I've talking to a lot of folks in the sort of like funding and VC world and stuff, and obviously AI at the moment is like a big part of that. And one of the things that's jumping out to me as well is that like in the same way a lot of these big companies, especially some of the big funds, like if they don't have people who really understand about games, or you just have individual VCs looking into games, that they seem to think that they seem to look at games, and games specifically, as like this opportunity to create business, much like the movie studios or, record labels or whatever, to sort of like generate business through this art form. But because I feel like the knowledge of how games work and how, what all the different things that need to come together for a game to feel good is even more opaque than that of movies and television, that the idea that AI is going to come in and like make good stuff is insane to me. The one thing I do think though, that when it comes to tools, AI could make a massive difference. Like the generating concept art stuff or getting people to think about stuff or whatever, like that is one version of the sort of step back you need to take with some of this technology. That like, don't get a video, I don't want a tool that's going to edit my video, because I like to edit the videos. That's fun. That's the whole point of the job that we do. I don't do video editing so I can make the money. You know what I mean? Like that's not the reason I'm doing it. I do it because I want to do the thing that I'm doing. And I think people who aren't artistic don't understand that it's like the work is the joy of it and like all that sort of stuff. But if I had an AI tool, and some of these exist, that can get a lot of that grunt work out of the way, that can like, pull selects or color grade a little bit, or get me some of the way on the grade, or fix my audio. So, like we do, like we have denoisers and we have like, stabilization tools for shaky camera stuff. Like I don't want to have to keyframe that shit, but like I'll use a piece of technology that's able to understand that and get me a little bit closer to it. And then maybe I can sort of do the artistry from there. All that stuff sounds really interesting to me. There's one feature that's on Riverside, which is the technology we use to record these podcasts, that it can cut out clips of videos, but you can do it text-based using their captions. So you can literally edit the video by just editing a Word doc of the script of the podcast by just deleting the text, and then it will just make the video. And that's a really clever workflow. Like that doesn't work for everything, but like if I'm trying to pull out a clip of this podcast and I can just jump in and literally control F, cromulent. I'll just say it now. I'm probably not going to say that word again for the rest of the podcast. If I could just control F that word and like have it spit out the video, that's kind of cool. Like that's a use of this new technology, be it AI or generative or whatever type of stuff. So I do feel like there's like ways in which that will help, and that doesn't replace people's jobs. It just changes the mastery level required in the job, which I feel like is the way all jobs have been forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bakers don't bake the same way.
Yeah, as always, I feel like the abiding goal of technological progress should be to alleviate the burden of drudgery on humanity. Like,
yes.
It's so funny to me. I mean, this is, sorry, if you're listening to this and your job is business, I apologize in advance. I am of the mind that like people who make things are the people who should be empowered the most in our society. And I feel like because a lot of the control of the reins of where technological progress goes is held by people who are in a position where their job is to like generate money, not to like make things. I feel like a lot
Wait, are you saying that the workers should seize the means of production, Jeremy? Is that what you're saying?
I may be skirting around the point a little bit. I just feel like it's like, I mean, wages, if you look at the wages versus inflation, wages have stagnated, inflation has gone way up. People should be making more money and working fewer hours. Instead, we're working more hours and making less money. Housing is prohibitively expensive and corporations own all of the housing. So like, instead of having AIs that generate bad art, maybe we should have AIs that like, replace. I think a CEO's job could be more easily replaced by an AI than a painter.
Have AI generate bad CEOs.
Yeah, have them generate bad business decisions, like removing the name HBO from HBO Max.
Oh my God, whatever fucking chode came up with that. Jeez Louise.
It's probably ChatGPT.
It's fucking hammers, man. They've got a hammer. Everything looks like a nail, right? Or it's just, nonsense. We should probably talk about video games at some stage. Frank, though, I wanted to ask, before we get into some of our video games here, which there are not that many, to be honest. I have not played anything except Zelda, but we're not going to talk about Zelda. Frank, I want to ask a very important question about your hand. Which hand did you break there? Was it the stranger or was it the familiar one?
I am ambidextrous, but I write with my left hand. So the left hand,
okay,
and that's the joystick and L2
joystick.
Joystick. Like I tried playing Zelda and I can't do it because a lot of times when you're using abilities, you have to hold the L button and then manipulate, and it's like that's too many inputs. So it really was like, okay, what can I play with one hand? And then that kind of limited it down to like RPGs basically, and puzzle games. And so I played a range of those.
But before we get into the games that you did play, I felt bad for you, so I wanted to produce a list of games that maybe you can play. Maybe games you haven't thought about, but games that work when your hand is otherwise occupied or, in your case, out of commission. And maybe, Jeremy, maybe you can think of a couple while I'm going through this list of games. You ready? Okay, how about we give it a thumbs up, thumbs down for you maybe, and on maybe our thumbs in the middle for whether or not this is a game you think you might play or something, okay?
Sure.
And you will have to vocally also say where you're... you don't have to lift your hand because I know your hands are pretty busy at the moment. But you can just say it because this is a podcast, Frank. It's audio. So you'll have to say the thumbs. Can you test it? Can you say thumbs up, down, and thumbs in the
thumbs
middle?
up, thumbs down. Now, is this a game that I'm able to play or games that I actually would want to play?
Would want to play,
okay.
maybe. Let's say that. Okay, first up, Hearthstone.
Oh, no. I've never been interested in it. I don't know why.
Doesn't want it. Okay.
Yeah.
Undertale.
Oh, man. See, I played half. Yes, that's a thumbs up. I played halfway through that game, and I dropped it for whatever reason. But that's a fun one. I was doing a pacifist run of it. So, yeah.
So there's going to be a bunch of point-and-click games in here, so I'm just going to say that right out the bat. First one I'm going to mention, though, Monkey Island. Probably the new one, let's say. The Secret of Monkey Island.
If I was ever going to play those games, now would be the time that I would play that. So thumbs up on that, because I'd be interested in it.
Disco Elysium.
Thumbs up. That's another game I've always wanted to play, and anything text-based where I don't have to actively run around and manipulate action stuff, so that's a thumbs up.
That's the thing, because there are some games that are predominantly mouse-based, but they might require a lot of clicking, Like, Hearthstone at least is like sort of at your pace, or they might require a bit of. You could probably use your other hand, like Age of Empires or World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? You kind of need the hotkey hand for that a little bit. A game you don't necessarily need it though is Civilization.
Ooh, I've never played that. I think is Civ 5 the most recent one, or Civ 6? I
think so.
But that's a thumbs up because I've never tried. I'm probably too dumb for that.
Oh no, dude, you should play Civ 3 or 4. Civ is so fun. Yeah.
Those always look cool. Sure. Yeah. I also have time to kill because you really can't do much, so I need to just accelerate a month. So I've heard Civilization's very addictive.
Right, you could play like Universalis or whatever. What is that called again?
Europa Universalis.
Europa Universalis.
Yeah.
You could do if you want to go deep in the weeds. Next one I have here is Donut County.
Oh, see, that's a thumbs up. I've already played, but I love that. That game's amazing. Donut County's awesome.
I remember when Ben Esposito was showing that around at conferences, he had like a large roll ball as the controller. Did you ever see that?
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, it was like a huge, like it was clearly an accessibility controller or something. It was like a very large ball, like maybe 8 inches across, like a roll ball, like you get on a mouse, and you used to use that to control it, which was pretty good. Thematically connected too. A little bit on a bit more movement required for this one. Nintendo Switch Sports.
Oh, wow. Wait, there's a Switch? Oh, yeah. In my head, I'm like, wait, they made a sequel? There's a Switch Sports?
What's it called? Isn't it? Is it just?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Nintendo Switch Sports. Yeah. I don't think. Did I ever play this?
I don't think I ever played it either.
It's got bowling and.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they straight up made a sports game. I don't think I've fucking played this game.
Wow. Yeah, because I think everyone. Oh, wow, they did.
It's got soccer.
Whoa.
I definitely never played this.
Yeah, isn't it wild? That game came out last April. April 2022.
Oh, the tennis would be so much fun because I loved Wii Sports Tennis or whatever it was called. Yeah.
I was never a huge fan of Wii Sports. Wii Sports to me always felt like a game that you play when you're like babysitting your nephew. You know what I mean? Like real like babysitting video games to me.
This is like, are you a jock? What happens? You're like, fuck, I only play big bro games.
No,
it's the baby games.
It's the opposite. I'm denigrating the jock games, I think.
All right, well, that's not for Jeremy. Maybe you'll play it. Maybe you can play a hot man's big ball game like Kentucky Route Zero.
Oh, so wait, what? I've heard this game is good. I don't know anything about it. What is Kentucky Roads? I'm assuming it's another adventure type, narrative adventure type game. But what is it? Doesn't it deal with hacking?
It's very Jeremy, have you played these at all?
I'm sorry, I was still caught up on Switch Sports. I was thinking so hard about Switch Sports. What game?
Kentucky Route or Kentucky Route Zero.
No, I'm familiar with them, but I've not played them.
So I forget what they called it. They made like a special edition or something, or PC edition maybe it was called. I forget. A while back ago. They're very like artistically very minimalist looking. I think like noir kind of vibe to it. I haven't really played enough of them, so I don't really. I played the first one a long time ago when it came out, but obviously I think 5 chapters of it now are out. It's Annapurna joint. It was like an early Annapurna game, I want to say. But yeah, people are always talking about how cool it is, and it's I think it was on Netflix as well for a while there. I'm not sure, but yeah, worth a shout. I'm only halfway through my list here, Frank.
This is cool. Route Zero, the art is amazing. That might also be cool.
Good.
I can't even use my Steam Deck. That's the biggest tragedy.
Oh yeah,
it's too heavy.
Well, another game you can play, which is point and click and has a beautiful art style, and I'm still trying to get Jeremy to play it. Norco.
Yeah.
Norco's an interesting little game. A game that I played actually on my Steam Deck for the first time. I had never played this game. I don't know why it took me so long. And then I was like trying to get games for my Steam Deck for these big transatlantic flights I was doing. And I finally played Slay the Spire.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's good.
I love that game.
It's a good time. It definitely feels old now.
Yeah, I
because it's, I guess, when did it come out? It feels like
2014 or something. It was so old.
Is that right, Barry? Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, was it in early access for a long period of time or something?
I believe it was. Let's see. Early access 2017.
Okay, yeah. So a decent amount of time ago. I wonder if they're working on. Is there a sequel being worked on? Am I crazy?
Mega Crit. Let's see.
Oh.
See, Slay the Spire sounds great. Because I did want to chat about Midnight Suns later, but apparently like the card system in that's Slay the Spire, so it's the same type
cool.
of combat. So I'm like, yeah, this sounds cool.
I love Slay the Spire. I beat one run of that game and then I never played it again. That's how I.
Oh, really?
That's how I always play. I did the same thing with Dead Cells. Like I just beat the run and then I'm just done with it.
Just like I'm done.
Yeah.
I did it. I killed Omek. Vampire Survivors, of course. You've done a bunch of that though for our Vampire Survivors documentary, which is coming out in the not too distant. I'm editing it right now over there.
That's a big thumbs up though, because I could play that on the Xbox, grind achievements, and I only need to use the thumbstick on the Xbox. Oh my god,
one-handed Xbox. That's an interesting look as well. This War of Mine.
Oh, I never played that. Yeah,
I love this game. It is quite depressing, I would say, or it has the ability to be. It is basically a game where you take where you are in a country which is at war and you are trying to survive in your house or in a building, and you are taking in people and trying to survive when it comes to food and warmth and all that sort of stuff. But also it's a lot about the people who come into your house and how they help or how much of a burden they are. It's very evocative. They did a big when the Russian army illegally annexed eastern Ukraine, they did a big funding push for it as well, or did a big charity drive, I should say. 11-Bit Studios. I forget where it is based. Is it about is it Bosnia, or I forget. The studio is based in Warsaw, so it could very easily just be about, the history of Poland is certainly one that is not has been touched by war many, many times. Is it Sarajevo maybe or something? Sorry. Here we go. The game was inspired by the poor living conditions of wartime atrocities that Bosnian civilians endured during the 92-96 siege of Sarajevo, the longest siege since World War II. So I don't know if any of the developers are perhaps tied to that. Obviously, it's a pretty big European recent history event. So yeah. Have you ever, any of you guys ever played that game?
No, I'm familiar with it. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but never played.
It's really good, yeah. I like it a lot. And I feel like it got maybe a bit of a, not an HDFI, but I think it got a bit of, love a couple of years back or something.
Yeah,
I forget.
I see on Steam it's marked as the final cut or final edition.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think that was one of the first games I got on Humble Bundle forever ago. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's it seems so. I don't know if I'll ever be in the mood. Man, it seems so heavy. But
it kind of reminds you of Cart Life, where it's a game that is kind of, it really puts you in. It's not trying to get the player to the next level. It's no, shit's hard, and not it's almost about not losing as slow as you can, surviving as long as you can, and it's not about winning. It's about not losing, basically, not dying. It's pretty powerful stuff. Life is Strange and Telltale I have down here just in general. There's a lot of Telltale did not make Life is Strange, but that whole era of Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us and all those. You could play all those one-handed.
Yeah, those are awesome. I forget, was Wolf Among Us 2 announced recently? Whatever.
Didn't it come out?
Because Wolf Among Us, or is that what the game? Now when I say Among Us, I can't not think about
Among Us.
It ruins it. Yeah, Wolf Among Us 2. Because
it's coming out next year, it says. Yeah, it was announced, wasn't it, with the new owners of Telltale or whatever.
Yeah, because Wolf Among Us became my favorite Telltale game. And I ended up buying the comic book Fables after. I still never read Fables, but that Wolf Among Us game was so good. The soundtrack. I'm trying to think if there's any other iconic. I played most of the Walking Dead games. I never played the Batman game, but that one sounds cool.
I also have Into the Breach here.
Oh, that'd be a good one. Yeah, that'd be a fun one. Yeah.
More so than FTL, which definitely is a bit more hotkey heavy, I feel like, especially when you're in the climactic battles. And then RimWorld and Dwarf Fortress down here as well, but you can sit and watch 50 hours of YouTube tutorials on how to play those games anytime. You don't have to wait until your arm hurts. And you should, in preparation for our wonderful Dwarf Fortress podcast, which I'm also chipping away on. A couple of them you might like?
Yeah.
Sorry,
there's a lot of games that just got this War is Mine. Honestly, I kind of It sounds like that's a game I want to try with no intention of trying to beat because I've always wanted to see how that is and see like, oh, is it still emotionally effective? Like, because I think that game came out in 2014. I'm sure it's brutal still, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
like even looking at my Steam catalog, I always neglect it because I'm always eager to like jump on my consoles, but there's so many of those types of adventure games and story games on there that I need to dive into. Civilization though, I don't know why that one
Civ
that's
is so
always
fun.
been one.
I'm looking at this War of Mine is $20 on Steam, but I just a nice little feature they have on Steam, I guess, is they have like a little discover the studio's upcoming game, which seems pretty cool. I don't know if I think this might be published by 11-bit Studios, but it looks interesting. It's called the Thaumaturge.
Yes.
The Thaumaturge. Have you heard of this?
No.
It came up as I was looking at this War of Mine. This looks super cool.
It looks neat. It's a story-driven RPG with morally ambiguous choices taking place in the culturally diverse world of the early 20th century Warsaw. In this world, solutors exist, exotic beings that only thaumaturges can truly perceive and use for their own needs. Graphics look sick.
Yeah, this is
Looks
beautiful.
really interesting. Yeah, there you go. Kind of a disaster of a name, the Thaumaturge.
I was gonna say, yeah, it doesn't really roll off the tongue or stick in the head. Is that a real? I know. Is that
Must be a thing.
a
or is this
worker
an
of
IP?
wonders and performer of miracles, a magician?
Yeah, I think a thaumaturge is also like a starting class in Final Fantasy 14 or some other MMO I've played. Yeah.
It came off your tongue way too quickly
Yeah,
for you to have never
thaumaturge.
said it before. Thaumaturge. Jeremy, do you have any one-handed games for Frank?
Oh man, I feel like you nailed a lot of the good ones. I feel like mostly just kind of chill paced things and turn-based stuff is good. Maybe like Papers, Please or something like that.
Oh yeah,
That's
a good shout.
Yeah, like Stardew. Into the Breach is probably the one I would go with. I just like sat in bed playing that game for 3 days when I got it and did nothing else. Yeah, or like RPGs, like old RPGs probably too, like anything.
Ooh, or Divinity? Could you do that one-handed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh.
Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of the best games ever played, or ever made, ever played,
Ever played.
and ever played.
I like that there's a best game ever made that nobody played.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's different than the best game ever made and played.
I didn't bring this up on the podcast, but over a few weeks ago, I ended up looking at a bunch of old videos that Danny made of The Point, and you had one video essay that was so good called like, "What if you never play your favorite game?" And it was it was great.
That's the intrusive thought speaking.
Yeah.
You know?
but I really was. It was like, oh, everyone's like, so many people are so afraid to go out of their comfort zone. And yeah, like, what if I end up loving Civilization? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, this could be an opportunity to just be like, I can't touch all my, like, I was so upset because this weekend was going to be Guitar Hero and then Street Fighter 6 demo.
Christ.
And I tried, I set up my fight stick and the tutorial was like, press forward twice to do a dash. And I did it and I hurt so bad. I'm like, I can't play. I'm
that
sorry.
sucks.
So like, now the week, yeah, so. But now it's a good
That's
opportunity to
awful.
just be like, you know what? I'll sit and I'll play. I'll try anything.
I think Jeremy suggested Donkey Konga during our meeting
yeah,
earlier.
the drum
which-
game, but with one
which
hand.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think you could
guess.
do
It's
it.
like hard mode.
Yeah.
Like I
Man,
I
that's-
even thought about pulling out my Wii U just to play Wii game or whatever because I don't have a Wii, but I have a
Yeah.
Wii U and what other? Yeah, because Wii is perfect for I guess Switch now. It's the same.
Wii U's tricky though because a lot of it's that tablet stuff. You know,
Hey, you
it's
can
like-
invite your nephew over too. And maybe
Babysit. Hey,
he wants to like
baby games.
draw a picture of like a horse or something on there. I don't know, on your big fucking Wii tablet.
fucking Jeremy coming out strong against Nintendo. It just seems at this stage.
yeah.
What did you mention? Animal Crossing? No, you didn't say Animal Crossing. You said Harvest Moon or
Or
something. was it?
Stardew or
I've
Harvest
never
Moon.
Stardew,
played
you're saying.
Stardew.
Oh, Stardew is really, really fun. It's delightful. Yeah, I don't know when their Haunted Chocolatier game is coming out, but I'm psyched
Oh
about
yeah,
it.
that looks
Was it
cool.
similar to Stardew? Isn't there a game called like The Graveyard Keeper or something like that? That
There
sounds.
is.
It sounds like it's like Stardew, but you manage a cemetery.
Yes,
That sounds.
We
way
talked
more,
about this.
That sounds about more at my alley. Yeah. What the hell is that? That sounded cool.
Yeah, you're right. We talked about this on a podcast a while back. Graveyard Keeper
Graveyard
on
Keeper.
Steam.
That sounds cool.
Oh, this looks cute.
Wait, what?
I not played this.
Weirdly, there's one with. Oh, there's fucking two of them. Oh, not Gravekeeper, which doesn't look
Graveyard Keeper.
particularly
That's what I'm
amazing,
looking at.
but Graveyard Keeper, yeah. Holy shit, 25,000 positive reviews. Man, 2018.
It's the goth Stardew Valley.
yeah. This is
Yeah,
the hot
exactly,
topic
yeah.
Stardew.
Yeah, this looks cute.
Oh, that's cool. I bet like skeletons come out of the ground and stuff. You don't baptize them or something. I don't know.
I did see that Slay the Spire is on Game Pass, which defeats the purpose of using a mouse. But like, if I can get Chivos,
Yeah,
you know,
you're just gonna hurt yourself again
You-
for the Chivos.
You need to get like a Tobii eye tracker, like the accessibility thing that tracks where your eyes
yeah.
are looking, and then you could just be like moving cards around and Slay the Spire.
What are those new PlayStation accessibility? Have you seen those? Well, you shouldn't buy them because there's probably not enough of them in the market for all the people who actually need them.
True.
But and also they probably cost like $400. But the there's a Project Leonardo.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this thing? Google it.
I hadn't heard
It's
about it
absolutely
until the
fascinating
Last of Us doc. They talked about it, and that's where I came across it.
Did that part make it into the edit? I don't think.
I feel like it was.
Whoa.
It kind of had nothing to do with the way they talked about
Yeah.
Leonardo. Kind of had nothing to do with The Last of Us. So I think I got cut.
Yeah, didn't make the cut. Yeah, it looks crazy. It's like a super modular looking
oh, this looks cool.
nightmare machine.
You know what it looks like is
honestly.
those like steel drums where it's like. Boom, 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 boom,
Oh yeah,
Looks
yeah,
like one of
totally.
those.
It's just you need a Jamaican percussionist
Yeah.
sort of floating above it,
Hell yeah.
doing the good work. All right, Frank. From games that you might hypothetically play due to your ailment to games that you were
Yes.
playing, you got 3 of them down here. Why don't you
Yes.
rattle through them? Tell us about them.
Jesse was the one who first clued us in on this, but Marvel's Midnight Suns is legitimately one of the
yeah.
best games of last year. So
Too little, too late, man. Firaxis are already on the ropes with
Oh,
that one. I
man.
think
Again,
it
like,
sucks.
what and that's they've put out free demos, they've slashed prices, like you now get this for under $30. It is so good. It's like, again, it's almost a sad story. It's like they made like the best card built deck game I've ever played. Like it's the best Marvel game I've ever played, not including Marvel's Capcom 2. It is excellent. So the premise of Marvel's Midnight Suns, half of it is tactics card, deck building, kind of like Slay the Spire from what I looked at. Every mission you pick between 3 superheroes, and it's a pretty big cast of Marvel characters. I've been obsessed with Blade, Ghost Rider, and then this X-Men lady named Magic. You can also make your own character. So I made a mutant who looks like Hayley Williams from Paramore.
Oh my god.
So,
oh my god.
So half of it is the combat, and it is gorgeous. Like the animations and combat is super satisfying. Battles also don't take too long. Spider-Man's even in it. Like it's just like it's so cool and satisfying, and it's not tied to like MCU, so it doesn't have that like Disney baby snark. I don't know. It's a little bit better. It's a little.
Right. Yeah, I hate that.
Is that your nephew's babysitting game? I don't know.
What is this, my nephew's game?
So it's scratching that. This is really cool. The other half of it is like Persona elements where you're like spending you're stargazing with Blade or working out with Iron Man. Like you're doing little activities to level up your friendship, unlocking dialogue trees. But the more time you spend with different heroes, you level up their abilities. There's just like an XCOM when you're building your bases. There's research trees you unlock. If you do a certain amount of missions with Blade, you unlock this different things. So there's constant progression. So it kind of has like that very satisfying gameplay loop of like what I prefer, like Destiny or even Persona, where you do your combat, you go into the dungeon, you do your mission, and then you come back out and you level up stuff, you talk to people, you build up. So it's going back and forth, and it is so satisfying, and I'm getting sucked into it. So I am burning time through it. I really like it, so highly recommend it. Marvel's Midnight Suns. I'm also very wary with like you mentioned Hearthstone. Immediately I'm like, oh gosh, and maybe
Right.
I should try it. But I am so surprised with how fun Midnight Suns is. So I really recommend it.
I feel with something like Hearthstone as well, it's there's a little bit of a worry that then I have basically like gotten you hooked on like a class A drug. Like then
Yeah.
800 hours later, Frank emerges and his arm has been in the sling the whole time. He never took it out, and it's sort of like fused in that position. And your other hand is huge, like just muscled up to.
I've heard Marvel Snap is also good, but yeah, that's why I won't touch a mobile game, is because it's like, no, that's I already check my phone too much, so my like rule to myself is I don't ever install games on my phone. I just, the other game that I played, which was like such a miracle that this finally came out, is Rent a Hero, which is a Dreamcast game, I think from 1999 or the year 2000.
Okay.
So this came out in Japan on Dreamcast back in the day. And it was going to be ported to Xbox after, Dreamcast folded, and then Sega was making a bunch of stuff on Xbox, and then it just never came out stateside. So I'd always heard of it. finally a fan translated it, so there's an official, or no, an extremely unofficial patch that you can get and pair up with a Dreamcast emulator. So Rent a Hero is directed by the dude who ended up making all the Yakuza games, who then left Studio RGG. So it is basically if you took all of the silliness of Yakuza games, all of the silly, goofy side missions, and made a game that's just that. It's the same DNA as like Shenmue, same combat as like Die Hard Arcade, Dynamite Cop. It's the most Sega game you could ask for. The premise of Rent a Hero is you're like I think like a teenage boy. You move into a new town. It's very Americana, like Earthbound, and you get approached by a mad scientist from Seika. Not Sega, but Seika, which I think stands for like scientifically enhanced combat armor. And you get your machine called the Creamcast. And
oh my god!
So it's you boot up your
God.
Creamcast, and it has like the whole
Excuse
like
me.
Dreamcast.
Sorry to all of our young listeners and people. With...
So like the whole game is cheeky like this. You boot up your Creamcast, and then you select missions, and they range from just like, oh, I'm too old. Can you go get groceries for me? Or you need to become the bodyguard for Narco, not Namco, but Narco. And so it's like, it's just Yakuza or Shenmue side missions that are so silly. And it's very like Super Sentai, like Power Rangers, like you transform into this hero and you run around town. But the game's sense of humor is so like silly. Like everyone just calls you a clown. Everyone's just making fun of you. You get no respect. You do food delivery missions and it's like Crazy Taxi. It takes place in a very fake like USA. There's like a farm village called Cornhole Valley. There's a city level called New Dork. It's just like
New Dork.
Yeah, you can get food from My Donald's instead of McDonald's. It's My Donald's. It is just like it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like this is the silliest game ever made, and it's very similar to like again Earthbound or that Japanese sense of humor. You talk to good Americans on the street who are like, "Hello, kid, you look great. Make sure to stay in school and say no to drugs." And then it's just so every dialogue is insane. So Rent a Hero.
Is the game you're playing technically called Rent a Hero number 1?
Yes.
Because there is actually a remake of a Mega Drive game.
Yeah, and that one was directed by Yu Suzuki. So the original.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Shenmue thing. So this just basically feels like. I imagine they worked on Shenmue for 5 years, and afterwards were like, okay, let's just make a silly game like with all the stupid stuff we wanted to put in Shenmue, and that's great because I like Shenmue, but there is so much stuff that is such a slog or just pretty lame. Whereas Rent a Hero feels like a parody of Shenmue, and then that team just straight up made Yakuza games. So it's like it's like the bridge or literally the baton being passed from like the Shenmue DNA to the Yakuza. And this is the bridge, and it's so silly. It like I was even thinking like, man, if Sega themselves remastered or put it out, I think people would vibe with it. It's so funny.
That's so bizarre. There was even an Xbox version that came out, but only in Japan, because there was an issue with distribution, and so they never got the English language version to get made. That's incredible. It says here on the Wikipedia page, in 2008, the unreleased English translation version of the game got leaked and appeared on torrent sites in an apparently completed state with only minor text errors present. This version was very close to completion and was reviewed by GamePro and EGM in February of 2003. An unofficial English language patch was released in 2023. The future, we live in it now. And that was done by, I wonder if I can get the credit for whoever this was. It was a fan translation done by I cannot. Oh, Modder Vincent NL. So perhaps they are from the Netherlands. Who knows? But Vincent NL, and they have a Patreon. I go to patreon.com/VincentNL. You can become a patron of that individual who is out there doing the good work. Apparently they are reversing/modding Sega, Naomi, and Dreamcast games is what they do. So fair play to Vincent NL out there doing the good work. That's super cool. Man, can we do a video of that on Crew or something? That sounds a lot of fun.
I would love it, yeah.
That sounds very bizarre.
Yeah, it's,
and then
yeah, go.
Sorry, and then did you play Humanity?
Yeah, so I played maybe an hour of it.
Explain what this is to people, because I've been while we're working on Stunt Derby, I'm often looking at Humanity and going, "Oh, that's our game, but with people instead of cars."
Yeah. Humanity. So I think this is the same team that did Tetris Effect and Res Enhance. So it's very, very trippy visuals, very awesome music. Humanity basically feels like a new version of Lemmings. You are guiding a massive herd of humans, and it has very silly physics as they fall and tumble. And you're like kind of like Lemmings. You're dropping commands like, I want these humans to jump. I want them to turn. I want them to pause, freeze. I've only done the first like prologue or first few areas of it, and it's gonna get more complicated. But it is very trippy, and it is on the PlayStation Game Pass thing, so it's, if you're part of that service, finally there's a new game worth checking out. But I want to spend more time with it, but also a game I can play one-handed because it's very light inputs and you're dropping commands, and I think you can rewind if you screw up, or you can restart the level, so it's not too punishing. It's just very, again, like Tetris Effect, very hypnotic to play, so it looks very cool.
Humanity. Cool. I'm excited to play it. What's it out on?
I think maybe only PS5. Or
Okay.
it's on PSVR too, I think.
Oh, it's on Steam as well, is
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah.
It does say Steam, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It does, yeah.
So
$30. Is it on PlayStation Plus or anything, or is it?
if you have the enhanced, there's like 3 tiers of PlayStation Plus, so it's
Yeah.
on one of those. Yeah.
PlayStation Plus is really weird at the moment. And it's got a broken and won't let me upgrade to the next level, only the top level or something. It's being really strange. At least it was before I left. I should check it out again. That's Humanity, and that's all the new games. But Jeremy, you have down here that you were playing a game that I thought you said you hated. I thought you said this is one of the games you hate the most.
Yeah,
in the
this
world.
is my nephew. He was telling me about some game he's been playing called Earthbound.
game.
Yeah, some baby game. No, I revisited Earthbound yesterday. For the first time I don't think I've played that game probably since I was 7 or 8 years old. I loved this game so much as a child. It shaped the human that I grew up to be. In fact, I loved it so much that I had a writing assignment, creative writing assignment in like first grade. I don't know, around whenever I was playing this game, where you had to draw a picture and then write like a sentence is saying what the illustration was of, and you would do like 10 of those and do a little picture book story, right? Creative writing assignment. And I just wrote the plot to the first like 30% of Earthbound in a book, and just was like, yeah, not because I couldn't come up with a story, just because I was obsessed with this game. So I started replaying it on my Retroid yesterday, and I ended up playing probably like the first 3 or 4 hours of the game for the first time since I was like 7 years old. The kicker is that I had set up I had similarly in the past like booted up Earthbound on my Retroid, and there's kind of a Mad Lib system where it's like, what's your favorite food? What's your name? What's your favorite thing to do? And then throughout the game it uses those in various ways. So I had an old save when I booted up Earthbound. I was like, oh, I don't remember starting this. And I booted it up, and it was just the opening cutscene. So it just skipped over the Mad Lib stuff. I was like, all right, I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, funny.
Little did I know that I had, not intending to follow through and play the game, I had just thrown in a bunch of like dumb jokes as all the things. So resulting in such hilarious phrases as you go home to the mom and you can like rest in your childhood bed to like heal up. As she was like sending me off to bed, she said, eat some dick and scoot off to bed. So there's been a lot of good little
good
juvenile little traps that I've set for myself in the past, which is especially fun because it's like I feel like it's in keeping with Earthbound's tone as well, to kind of like not take it too seriously, not to go back and be like, this is like a relic of my childhood, it needs to be like preserved and is sacred, but just kind of like have a bunch of dick jokes pre-written into the script by myself a year ago.
What's the machine you're using to play it?
It's a Retroid.
Retroid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned this before.
It is a little handheld emulator. I have the Pocket 2 Plus.
Okay.
It's $99.
Oh yeah.
And
look at that thing.
this thing there's a 3 Plus now too, which is a little more, but it's fantastic. I played for probably like 3 hours last night and used less than 20% of the battery.
Oh great.
So if you play PS1 games, it'll only last a couple hours, but if you're playing Super Nintendo games, like you could do a flight to Japan and probably just play like Famicom games all the way.
Terrific.
But yeah, Earthbound holds up. It's so good. It's like, it's just as charming as I remember, and it's weird to play it with an adult brain because I feel like my response to everything is exactly the same. Like I don't know, it's just so like, it's like timeless, but it's also, there's something about the tone of it that I feel like a lot of the Earthbound inspired games have not nailed as well, which is that it's not just like it's not just like wholesome. It's not a game where it's just like everything is like rosy and wholesome. It has this weird acerbic wit to it where it's simultaneously doing the like wholesome Americana thing, but also undercutting it at the same time. It feels very like cynical and weird, and it's kind of like poking fun at you. It's not so rosy cheeked as I remember it or something, but
I wonder how much of that, God, I have no idea at all,
Yeah.
but I wonder how much of that is in the localization as
Yes,
well. Like,
of
I
course.
wonder if there's layers of influence happening there.
yeah, I imagine the logo. That's a story that'd be interesting to do for a doc one
Right.
day if we could get the people. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I imagine is localized, especially when it's like Japanese cultural references, but it's a game about Americana. So it's like, I wonder if they did sort of like small town Japan references and then played them off as Americana,
Right.
and then they had to like reverse engineer that or whatever. But yeah, I've been meaning to play Mother 3 for a long time, which is the sequel to Earthbound that I've never played. So I figured I'd go back and revisit Earthbound first. But yeah.
Give it a go. Is Mother 3 the game that never came out in the US?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a very good fan translation out there.
Okay.
So you just patch the ROM for Mother 3 and it works fine
And
apparently.
these fan translations out there again, doing it all. There is a website here. Of course, there's a legendsoflocalization.com/earthbound website that you can go check out that has a bunch of changed sprites and other things that are changed between the two versions of the games. So it's pretty cool, man. I love it. So much video game stuff gets really nice history to it. Is this a book? Am I crazy? Yeah, there is a Legends of Localization book on Earthbound,
Oh, cool.
which Fangamer was selling 6 years ago. Let's see if it's still around. That's insane. So literally there has been a book written. Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh, wow.
40 bucks on Fangamer. That's crazy. I'll stick it in the Discord chat. I'll try to remember to stick it in the details of the podcast too, though. But it's on Fangamer. If you type in Legends of Localization, localization is, if you don't know, is these sort of translations of games, but also changing, cultural elements of the game so that they make sense in whatever region that they're being sold in and played in. This is a cool looking book.
Yeah, I
Man,
want to check this out. This looks awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. There was also one for Mother 2 as well,
Oh, nice.
which is...
Yeah, they got Mother 2, Mother 3, Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, that's good. Is it for Mother 2? Oh, maybe not. Sorry. Maybe not. It looks like a passport. It's like a fake little passport you can buy. A Mother 3 passport. Or maybe there's one there. Legends of Localization. I've never heard of these. Oh, well, there's one for Zelda as well.
Oh, cool.
Legend of Zelda. Man, they look cool. These are cool little books.
Yeah, I'm going to get the
Look at
Mother
these
2 one.
guys.
This looks awesome.
Written by Clyde Mandolin, who is runs legendsoflocalization.com, I guess. There you go. Check it out.
Nice work, Clyde.
Localization. Localize it. That's podcast, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thank you much for listening. If you'd like to support this podcast, fund our documentaries, Frank's Paramore tickets, and more, head over to patreon.com/noclip. We're available on social media if you want to come and check us out there, of course. You know how to do it. On the housekeeping side, we just had a big meeting. The lads have been doing a lot of work on figuring some of our stuff out. I feel like we're sort of in the middle of the big Noclip sea change. Like, instead of just like saying, oh, we're going to do this in the future, we just secretly decided to change everything. The docs we're doing and the types of programs we're making and the way we do Patreon and everything, it's all just kind of happening. There are some signals to this, I guess. In terms of the documentaries, Choo Choo Charles, like I said, is up for early access, people. It's a 30-minute documentary. Super job on the edit, Jeremy. Thank you so much. I just slipped in some voiceover to tie it together. It's a punchy one. Really interesting story. This was one of the first, not first, this is an interview. I think it was episode 42 of the Noclip podcast when we had Gavin Eisenbeiss on to talk about the then just trailer for Choo Choo Charles. The sort of what happened in the 14 months subsequent to that trailer coming out and him actually having to make the game was very interesting. There's a good part in the doc where his dad gives IGN shit for giving his son a 4 out of 10, which is one of my favorite things we have ever filmed. It's a fun little documentary. So if you'd like to support Noclip and watch that right away, it'll be out next week, but on the channel. But if you'd like to check that out, then head over to Patreon. I'm currently filming the puppet stuff for Vampire Survivors, Dwarf Fortress. I'm in the edit on. Jeremy did a bunch of work coloring all that footage as well. Thanks, dude. Immortality you're handing off to me at the end of this week, and then I've got one more interview for it, I think, and I'm gonna finalize it. The Burger King interviews have already started. I talked to Philip Oliver of the Oliver Twins while I was on holiday in Ireland. He was available, and we had a very funny chat about those Burger King games. We're going to couple that with some other interviews with the developers of Sneak King and the other 2 games. What are they called again, Frank? Sneak King,
Pocket Bike Racer, and Big Bumpin'.
Big Bumpin', of course. God, they're right behind me. I think right here on the shelf behind me, and I was forgetting their names. And we're also going to interview who's the gentleman, Frank?
Leroy Patterson, who has like over 4,000 copies of Sneak King.
Yes, which Philip Oliver knows about and was referenced, which was quite funny. So we're going to interview him as well. So we will have a documentary about those weird Burger King games also coming. I also recorded a short documentary in Maryland while I was over there on the way back from Ireland. I had an afternoon off and I went and filmed with somebody we've interviewed before about their new solo project. So we'll be talking about to the patrons in the patron show about that in the next couple of weeks. We're also working on Hyperlight Development Episode 3, which will be out in, I will say, early fall. It's going to cover all the work they're doing at the moment to get well, I can't really say, but what they're working on at the moment with Hyperlight Breaker. And we also have about 5 other projects that are coming together, which are super cool. They're like, some of them are big games, some of them are pretty far away, some of them are close. We're starting to fuck around with the world of video game coverage and video game websites and video game YouTubers, and just like expanding our limits a little bit. And there's some fun projects on the horizon because of that. And also I am optimistic that the one that I've been trying to make happen for a long time, and I talked a little bit about last year, and if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you can see me pointing at the big poster behind me. I think it might be back on, but we're trying to work it out at the moment. We have to talk to some people up at the ranch to make sure that which is actually quite local to us here at that particular ranch.
Our local ranch.
Our local ranch, yes, exactly. To see if we can pull that one off, but maybe I'll ask them about Loom, I guess, if they say yes. We'll have to wait and find out. But aside from that, we're also there's a couple of other things I want to quickly mention. I think before I left for Ireland, I mentioned the fact that we were going to do this whole free patron thing. So it got rolled out by Patreon, but not with all the usability that I thought it would. So last month's patron show we just set as public so that anyone could watch it. The basically alpha for this program on Patreon is that we can now have free patrons, which are patrons that just basically hit a button and they're part of our Patreon, like a $0 tier effectively. In the future, apparently the not too distant future, we'll be able to post content directly to these people, and the idea is that we will share the patron show with these people. So that means that you don't have to pay any money and you will get the patron show on Noclip's Patreon. Obviously, the idea behind this is that we are talking to you and reminding you of our work that we're doing, and that perhaps some of you will sign up as paid patrons. We will not be aggressive in our upselling. Like, the idea is we're using this tool to give free cool stuff to everyone, and then we've got more behind the scenes stuff planned for our paid patrons. The way they've rolled it out so far is that what actually is happening is that if you sign up as a free patron, which basically just replaces a button that was on the Patreon before called follow, where people would just follow a Patreon and it would give them random updates, I think, on if we posted a public post or something. All those followers, which apparently was 4,000 people, are now patrons of Noclip. Free patrons, but still patrons, as it were, on the number, which is why we've removed the number, because now it looks like we've 8,000 patrons, which if we did, boys, we're all going to fucking Paramore.
Yes.
But so maybe we'll get there someday, but we're not there now. But anyway, I say the whole preamble to basically say that at the moment, if you sign up as a free patron, you will get public posts. So what we're going to do is whenever we post a new doc, we usually only posted it to patrons. We'll make them public posts now. So you will get the email that there's a new Noclip documentary out. You'll get all the details that we have in the post that talk about the documentary's production, all that sort of stuff. The patron show, whenever they turn that on where we can post that type of content without it being public to free patrons, we will turn that on as well. But I'm going to hold back on doing that until they've basically added that functionality, because otherwise it's just confusing for everyone. We want to be able to say, hey, sign up to our Patreon for free and you can get the patron show. And the other thing to mention is I do think that they send updates whenever we post something that's not in your tier if you're in that. So if you don't want to get spammed a lot, and granted we don't post that much, but I think, like, for instance, when we posted our early access post for Choo Choo Charles today, I think what that also did was email all the people who are free patrons and let them know that post exists and that they can go get it. I think it did that. I have no way of telling at the moment, so I'm going to reach out to some of our free patrons and see if they could send me screenshots.
Cool.
But as a result, we're going to change some of the, we don't post that often on Patreon. Whenever we do, it tends to be something substantive. So I would encourage people, if they're interested, and they don't have the means to become paid patrons, sign up as a free patron, and we'll make sure that there's some cool shit coming your way. And the last thing to say is that we're going to announce the tape stuff very soon. Our channel, we have a bunch of this videotape stuff, a bunch of preserved videotapes that were basically a couple of years from tape rot or bit rot or whatever, and we have high quality captures, we have interviews, we have all this stuff that's basically going to go up on our new Noclip archive channel. We're going to figure out a way of promoting this stuff on the main channel and letting people know that stuff is there. We have loads of cool shit, like I think I mentioned the first ever press preview for Knights of the Old Republic, which was never meant to be public in the first place. The same for games like Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate 2 expansions and stuff. Just like press previews that were never seen the light of day before the games were even announced at E3. Trailers for games, outtakes, loads of random videos from Japan on games that never came out in the States. Like, that's all in Japanese. I don't know what the fuck's going on in them. It's just like a veritable archive of video game history, and we are putting it all online for free. We're also putting it up on archive.org. Especially because, for instance, one of the things we're putting up is we have like a 1080i, the highest quality possible recording of the Microsoft press conference back in the Kinect one. I think it was 2008 or 9, I forget. But of course it starts with Beatles Rock Band, which YouTube is like, nope, blocked, because you played 5 Beatles songs in a row. So I just rendered a version of that basically cuts out all the audio for that section, but then tells people, go to archive.org if you want to download the actual version of this. So all of this stuff is also going to go up on archive.org. So all that's going to come out. And then the last thing to mention is that we're working on premium series for only the patrons. We've never done this before, but in a way to add some value to our Patreon, to drive some people to it over the next 6 months, and to say thank you to all of the people who have been supporting us over on Patreon. We are going to be, we have stopped doing the exclusive podcast episodes on Patreon. From now on, all the podcast episodes for the Noclip podcast will be here on the public feed. We won't do that anymore. We used to hold back one a month. We're not going to do that anymore. What we're going to do is make a patron exclusive podcast series, a limited series, which will be highly produced. I'm going to be hosting it. Jesse's going to be producing it. We have a concept for it. We think it's really cool and strong and something people have been asking for a long time. We're going to do like an 8-episode run of this thing. We'll put one of the episodes for free up here on the Noclip patron feed, but the rest of it will be for patrons only. And then eventually, if it does well and we do a second series, we'll release all those episodes for free on probably not this RSS, probably its own RSS feed. And then if we do a second season of it, we'll do that. But it's basically a way for us to work on some really cool stuff and also attempt to bring in a couple more patrons. We're also going to be working on a 4-part mini series, a mini documentary series. It's not about a particular game, it's about another aspect of games culture. We're going to work on this 4-part documentary series. The first part will be free to watch on YouTube. The 2, 3, and 4 parts are going to be locked behind the paywall for patrons for a time. I don't know. 6 months, a year, we'll figure it out. But that's basically another way to work on something that's cool, that we think is a bit more evergreen. And if we launch it a year later publicly, it'll still hit, but will be something interesting and cool for the patrons to experience. And again, hopefully build some of our patronage, because we're really in the need for it at the moment, and also give us something cool to work on the site. And we've loads of stuff coming to. We had a big creative meeting today about changes we're making to Noclip Crew, new types of documentaries that are going to hit the Noclip channel that, like I said earlier, cover aspects of the industry that we've not done before, like video game websites and creators, and interviewing developers about games that maybe they didn't even work on, like loads of different stuff that we can sort of mess around with. And a large part of that has been sort of the creative freedom that I experienced on Noclip Crew, figuring out what worked, what didn't work. The stuff that worked seemed to be covering and discovering new interesting indie games, kind of like we do here on the podcast. The stuff that didn't necessarily work is us trying to cover new games, which seems like it's a little bit outside of our sort of core competency, as it were. We also enjoy doing lots of opinion videos and stuff like that, and classic Let's Plays. So we're sort of like coming up with frameworks for all these and a way in which we can get them out on a good click, and also making sure that they're not just videos we rushed together, but it's stuff that we're researching and putting in the proper post-production on. So that was a lot of housekeeping in the end. Jesus, thanks for just hanging out there, guys, and nodding. I really appreciate it. How are your necks feeling?
Strong. Powerful.
How's your arm feeling, Frank?
Sore.
Okay, well, there you go. Yin and yang. That's a podcast. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, wait. Frank, waiting for the rest of your week.
Reading manga, playing Midnight Suns. Dude, I don't know. I can't ride my bike. What was my life like 3 weeks
he's
ago?
bummed out now. God damn it. Don't worry about it. That life is dead. New Frank is being born. New Frank is being born, and his right hand has never been stronger. Jeremy, what are you going to do with your right hand this week?
Oh, I'm going to edit the rest of Immortality. I've also been I've been in like a manic 3D modeling binge. I feel like I've upped my game. So follow me on Twitter at JeremyBJN if you want to see a bunch of weird little low poly cars and stuff, and
Hell yeah.
little lizard guys. I'm working.
Wait, you can make low poly cars?
Yeah.
Do you want to help us out?
Yeah, actually, go to my my resume piece. Go to my most recent tweet.
Send me some cars. We'll see. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Cool. Yeah, I've been working very hard on the game that I mentioned like a year ago on Jane Dev. So I feel like I'm gonna have something to share like relatively soon. I'm getting pretty psyched about it. Yeah.
Shit.
I'm getting really. I'm fucking. I feel like I got something on my hands here, so I'm keeping it close to the chest until it's ready.
I'm so sorry. Is your groceries waiting on your doorstep?
They
right
are.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, go. I'm so sorry.
I got yogurt
I just
outside.
realized your yogurt is bubbling outside. You did say it was going to be there 15 minutes ago, and I totally
It's
forgot.
okay.
That's a podcast, everyone. Enjoy your yogurt. Bye.